Hi, and welcome to the Firefly Adda, a virtual conversation starter, a platform where we showcase thought leaders, talk about diverse topics, and share some knowledge and wisdom around various topics, around the world. In today's episode, we will be talking to one of the cybersecurity experts, Rohit Kumar. Rohit, thank you and welcome to the Firefly Adda.
Thank you, Kush.
Yeah. So Rohit, really happy and pleased to have you here. We're going to talk about a very, very relevant topic, which is security, especially in times like these, COVID-19, the pandemic situation.
Mhm.
Cybersecurity becomes a very, very important topic, not just for the end consumers but also for businesses to sort of address. So with that in mind, I'd like to begin with maybe the first question. From a COVID-19 perspective, I think that's going to be my first question again, and mostly this topic would revolve around COVID, so we'll actually sort of align and position our thoughts around that. So
Mhm.
I think we would be interested in knowing and understanding, is COVID-19, could that actually possibly pose the largest ever cybersecurity threat in the recent times, and how is maybe this threat going to impact any businesses? So can you actually throw some light around that?
I believe the first things first is like thanks for giving me an opportunity to have this discussion here.
Yeah.
And the biggest thing that I would love to say is from a security standpoint, there is nothing that changes across. I
Hmm.
mean, we knew this kind of an event can happen. We were always ready to give the CXOs the
Hmm.
access on their mobile phones, on their
Hmm.
laptops when they were on the move. So logically, from IT perspective, we were ready. We knew how to do this. It was just the businesses that they had to adapt or adapt to this new ideology where their people will not be sitting in front of them. I mean,
Yeah.
that's the only difference that you will find. Having said that,
Hmm.
like there are different technologies that are available. I mean, there are different, and like how do I say, different genres of security are available.
Hmm.
We can start about from like security of the perimeter, where you can start with the firewalls, where you can start about with the WAF solutions. I mean, those were there for a very, very long time. But in this current era, where you say like, yeah, people are connecting back from the homes,
Yeah.
there is lots of like internet communication. You post something and you're working on some other things. Both can get mixed and match, and then there are tons of stuff.
Yeah.
So totally agree with you. Like, yeah, there is a balance that people have to strike about how do they work, how do they do their rest of the life. I mean, they if they are trying to mix it up or not. I mean, they're using the same devices for the personal as well as office use or not. But logically, from a IT perspective or from a security perspective, I do not think like anything changes with COVID specifically, right? And there are various organizations who are trying to milk in.
Hmm.
I mean, this is just this is just one of the business ways. I mean, that's that. But yeah, I do not see anything changes across from that. That point was.
So most of us, at home are actually sort of locked in, and work from home is sort of imposed in many of the businesses. So how are organizations sort of monitoring these security aspects? I mean, how is staying secure and being compliant in a home environment, being made possible? So can you actually, maybe shed some light around that?
Yeah. I mean, the first things first that you would see like is the emails. I
Yeah.
mean, emails are the bread and butter of any of the organization in this era. I
Hmm.
mean, that is the way the businesses operate. So
Hmm.
the first thing that you'll see is like the mail security itself, the way you take care of the mails, the attachments that are sent across, the secure mailing, the encryption. So these pieces, yes, they are there. Businesses are using it. One of the things that I have recently seen about in Microsoft's tool itself,
Hmm.
Outlook, that is given about for the devices, they have started accepting the digital certificates also, right?
Hmm.
So it becomes much more easier for people to work across with these digital certificates, start encrypting the attachments, start using SSL, and like those are some basics,
Hmm.
and they are being used. And I feel very, very happy when I see organizations taking stand, where saying like, yeah, security is something that we also do provide.
Hmm.
It makes huge lot of sense. Now coming back to one of the pieces that you did mention about securing, I mean, this was always there. I mean, if you were there in the organization where you were sitting and working across with the client environment or your own environments, there were logical boundaries there, right? So we just have to extend those logical boundaries even when you're working from home. So the extension policy that you're mentioning about,
Mm-hmm.
so probably from we have solutions in given out by bigger vendors there, which can extend all these services from anywhere. So work from anywhere
Mm-hmm.
can now, I mean, it can be now practically be possible for anyone and everywhere, right? It is a good thing that this has come into the picture, that like, yeah, people start thinking in a way like, I have a workplace and I have a home place.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there is no longer a workplace. Work is an action, right?
Yeah.
And I believe that this is a good thing now.
So I think, yeah, this is the new normal, and I think for a longest time we would actually see a lot of the employees being deployed and working from remote locations. So I think, yeah, so I think the organizations need to closely monitor and look at the security aspects. So I think most of them are already doing that, like you actually mentioned. So this brings to a very interesting and a very relevant sort of question. So about phishing, so.
Yeah.
A lot of the audiences would also want to maybe know and understand what phishing primarily is, and
Mhm.
how is sort of phishing emails aligned to this whole COVID-19 pandemic. So is there any alignment or any connection? So can you maybe throw in some wisdom around that?
Yep. Yeah, I for giving this example, I'll go back to my childhood days, like
Yeah.
where we used to sit across in the pond, throw a line, keep a bait over it, and
Yeah.
wait for a fish to get in.
Yeah.
And probably that is the whole concept that it starts about in here.
Yeah.
The attacker, they just send out a blast of mails to tons of people about in
Uh-huh.
there and just wait to see if somebody clicks over it.
Uh-huh.
Their links, their attachments, anything that can be there, right? So yeah, this is a very simple concept that they use about, like, if they send across 10,000 mails and even 1% of them do actually go about in there, I mean, it's still a win for them. They get enough money,
Mm-hmm.
even from 10 people or 100 people, to get their job done. So it is a good concept for the attackers. But for the people, like when they're seeing such a thing or a mail, the first thing that it should strike to them is like, was I actually expecting this kind of a mail? I
Mm-hmm.
mean, how many times do I get like, yeah, this is person is waiting for you?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, like nobody is waiting for anybody in this
Yeah.
era. Right? So, and the biggest thing is you will get mails from government of India saying like,
Yeah.
yeah, this is a PDF, please open it up.
Yeah.
I mean, like, nobody gives that kinds of mails these days. So understand like what exactly is coming across to your doors. I mean, in your mailbox, what
So
is there?
are we being compromised even if we just click on that mail, or are we, maybe looking at clicking the attachment and then getting compromised? So can you maybe just
No, it is both. This
uh-huh,
is this is our. It's a very serious misconception.
uh-huh.
People think like, yeah, even if I do not open the attachment, if I just open the mail, I did not do anything. I mean,
Mm,
this is a simple concept where we should understand. My Outlook client does not say much to me, but
mhm,
if there is a crafted mail and I send it out to you and you just open it out, I can get all the details that I need about your endpoint that you have, right?
wow.
So then my next attack can be much more precise and catered out to your system, right? So it becomes from a phishing to targeted phishing,
Mm-hmm,
right? Spear phishing that we call,
mm-hmm,
right? Now think about, we are commoners, that's fine. We might do some basic job. Think about CXOs, which
mm-hmm.
are like handling a bigger portfolio.
Yeah.
And if an attacker gets about in their system, right? This is now called as whaling because they have a bigger fish to fry,
Yeah.
and they go ahead, hack a person, and get the access to whole of the organization. It becomes so much easier,
Mm-hmm,
right? So the first things first that you would have to do is, if you see the headers, like the subject of the mail itself, which is shady enough, right? Ignore it. I mean, delete it. It's fine. Nobody's gonna get hurt. It's
yeah.
okay, right? And this some of the other things that I have seen people doing across in my like portfolio is they go ahead and have a different VM altogether where they can open out these mails. I
Mm-hmm,
mean, yeah, let's give them a surface where it can do whatever it wants and I'm still not hurt, right? For average people, I mean, the average consumers out in there, what I would always say is like, be mindful about what you're opening about in there.
mm-hmm,
For a medium expert level people, go ahead, use VMs,
mm-hmm,
right? Where you can use specific VMs for internet surfing, specific VMs for mailings, So you can understand like these are personal mails, have this on a different VM. This is official mail, so it remains on the base OS.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And then there are expert people. So for experts, I have a very good like idea. There's a whole OS called as Cubes OS, which
Mm-hmm.
has taken the same concept to a whole new different level. Right? You can have a base OS that can create the VMs for particular applications, and you can run them and just destroy the VM by closing the window, and that's that.
Wow.
Right? It makes lives so much easier and
Mm-hmm.
efficient. So you can have your whole workflow saying like this is a separate VM or a portion of the OS that is work related. This is a personal thing. This is just for the browsing thing. You can have differentiation done about in there, right? The Cubes OS is something that I would really suggest everyone to have a look about. It's really nice.
Mm-hmm. So VPN, Rohit. So I think with the bandwidth, especially at least from an Indian context, if you were to see, right, the bandwidth here is actually getting choked because I mean there is only so much that people can actually sort of pick up from their sort of an internet connection, right? So you have a family of 5 6 people, and constantly all five
Uh,
six of them are actually streaming the internet constantly. So the bandwidth actually tends to get choked, and then
mhm,
you are also a couple of them in the family can also be from a corporate setup who need to actually connect through the VPN. So
yeah.
with the bandwidth actually being choked, and for bandwidth to actually improve, there are recommendations that you need to disconnect the VPN, right? So how does that actually play an impact, and does it actually create any loopholes? uh, Again, this is very India specific because this is something that I have experienced personally, and that is why this
Mhm,
question. So
mhm.
can you maybe shed some light on that?
I mean, yeah, this is one of the good questions in an Indian perspective because the internet connectivity is not always as strong as we expect it to be.
Yeah.
Like even we get a broadband saying like yeah 50 Mbps or 100
Hmm.
Mbps. I mean, if there are two kids with their own classroom courses going on, I mean
Yeah.
that would be like completely consumed. So I
Yeah.
agree with this. But however, when we are working with official setup, it is always suggested to go across with VPN.
Hmm.
Now this is again, as I was saying, this was a traditional setup where you had some boundary saying like this is external, this is
Hmm.
internal, and I have a VPN that can let me through in. But again, in this era where we have blurred the lines between the internal and external, the need or the utilization of these VPNs might actually go down, right? Eventually, when all your systems are up there on the cloud,
Yeah.
right, where you just have to have an internet connectivity and get the job done, it becomes easier even for the organizations to work across in that way, right? And as I was saying, like the Boyd concepts that you we saw a few years back and then came in the cloud. So technology is always there.
Hmm.
We have it. We have started using it. So bandwidth, VPNs, yeah, this is gonna play a major role. I mean, there is almost nothing that we can do about the bandwidth. Yeah, this is a limiting factor from technology itself in India. I totally agree. And the population, as you would see, is huge about to just manage the infrastructure in that perspective.
Yeah.
But again, the dependency on the VPN specifically, this is something that I believe it's gonna go in a phased out manner. It will go off. However, when we have the VPN, it is how do I say? It is always suggested,
Hmm.
right? Why is it suggested? Because, like for example, if you are working across with some secure data, I mean, top secret or secret data that holds much more importance, it's always suggested to go out in that way, right? Even if you're sending out the mails, or if you have to just share it across with your own CXO team itself, right? How would you do it? You cannot just go ahead and post it out in the um, SharePoint
Hmm.
like Office 365. It's good you can do it, but should you? It's always a comparison between the openness as well as the security point, and this is something a balance that has to be struck about in there, right? So yeah, it's a mixed kind of a situation, and yeah, there is no silver bullet for this. We'll have to just weigh our options and move forward for
Just
this.
ride the tide as as you would actually want to say. So
Yes, absolutely. Yes.
so
That's again,
yeah.
yeah, that's again the things.
Yeah. So, from a privacy regulation perspective, there was this GDPR which came out. So, where are we on that? So, I don't really see this as a priority at all. So, isn't that the case?
I mean, to be really very frank, I have seen one of the reporters coming out. a few days back saying
Uh-huh.
like GDPR has been reduced to a joke. I mean, nobody takes care of it. Though nobody like, actually says what they're gonna do with the data. Nobody says like even if there's a cookie being set across, why is it being set across, and
Mhm.
what was the purpose of it. So again, I really do not see GDPR doing much good as it was anticipated it would. And the other issue that came across with it was there's no teeth that was given out to GDPR. It was just a compliance that companies might follow and said like, hopefully you'll follow it. And that's that. There was no enforcement for GDPR that was pushed across from EU as a whole unit. Like if they would have said like, no, we are gonna find you out and we're gonna do or take some steps, that should have done. But again, yeah, that's not present in my perspective at least.
Okay. Good. So I hope there is more significance and more heed, paid to GDPR, because I think it is a very important regulation. Though in India it is, yet to, take steam. I think globally it has, but I think it's become, one of the lesser priorities. Sticking to regulations and from an India context again, there are, your IRDA regulations, your SEBI and your RBI guidelines, and
Mhm.
how are these regulations sort of being aligned to these challenging times? So are there certain additions or amendments made to these regulations from a COVID perspective?
I mean, there would be some changes, but again, when we talk about these regulations, it is primarily revolving around the banking sector,
Hmm.
right?
Yep.
And yeah, it's good that we have that, but again, we have not given out the teeth to these regulations. There is
Hmm.
no teeth where my enforcement team goes ahead and my, in a sense, the Indian government goes ahead, says like, see, this is five of the things that this organization was not doing. I'm imposing a fine of, like 1 lakh or 10 lakhs or something. Like
Hmm.
that thing is not happening about in there, right? I do not see an enforcement and hard enforcement. And again, IRDAI or even SEBI or the RBI guidelines that you're mentioning about, it comes across from a very small subset. It is just from a banking perspective.
Hmm.
What about the fintech startups that are coming up? There are like IT startups that are coming up for AI, ML, right? These people also do hold across tons of private data, right? They have tons of information about there, right?
Hmm.
Similarly to what GDPR came across and said, like, if you're holding out the information of any EU person, you have to make sure you take care of it.
Yep.
Where is the mandate in India where it says, if you hold my citizens' information, like for example, Aadhaar number, what security you should follow? Like, these things are not there. This is something I believe is a high time where we should start looking in this perspective also and give the regulations or give these guidelines much more of a biting teeth rather than just being there for the heck of it, right? Just to give you an example about in there, Zomato, one of the examples,
Yep.
right? It's being used in 24 different countries, including US and Europe, in India, Indian-based organization, right? And few years back, it suffered an attack. 17 million user information was leaked out to darknet. Right? Somebody just played around and posted it out. What happened to Zomato? Were there any fines by US or Europe or by India? No. I mean, there was just a logical damage of business saying like, yeah, people did not trust it for some time and then they were back. I mean, these are the companies, these are the places where we should always start getting involved with, right? Because it's not always about banking or insurance organization. It is much more on a broader term about technology itself being used.
Got that. Now, from a payments perspective, Rohit, so what are your thoughts around contactless payments, and is that a healthy COVID-19 defense way forward?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, this should be the
Yeah.
normal new. I mean, this should be used across everywhere.
Yeah.
I mean, think about from a perspective where you had to insert your pin base into a machine and then had to type in the pin, and yeah, that was like lengthy process. Now with contactless that I have seen about, it's really simple. Like you take out your phone, you just tap it, and you just move across. You need not even open your wallet. I mean, that's the simplicity that we should move towards. How many people in this era do you think like they do not have a smartphone with them? I mean, I'm not counting the villagers about India, but yeah, the normal people in the cities. I mean, everybody has at least two to start off with, right? So, I mean, the easier ways would be to go out contactless and then extend this out in a phased manner, in a phased approach, even to
Hmm.
the villages. Because the bigger issues that we had in India was we had to stop the spread of this COVID with the help of minimal contact.
Hmm.
And now if I'm again letting people to transact with the help of the money, the hard cash money, this is gonna still be the case. And the rural India is the place which needs much more attention,
Yep.
right? Because there is no proper healthcare about there. And even if one person gets affected, we do not know how many people they usually get in touch with, right? We do not have all those proper controls there. So I believe, yes, cities will be acting as the model where how do we start about this contactless, and they have to be propagated back to the villages. The ground root people, they should start using some or the other ways. So one of the other ways which I tend to think about is the banks, they have started giving out the contactless cards, debit cards or credit cards. Forget about the credit cards, the debit cards themselves, right? You just have to tap it and you can move along, right? Makes life easier for the person who is using it, makes it easier for the person who is asking for the money. Like it's a win-win situation for both of them, right? So yeah, it is a good way that we should start about, and you should move towards this goal. Yes.
So great. Again, from a very Indian perspective, the Indian landscape, and how are we sort of combating cybersecurity during these times? So are there any SOCs which have been set up particularly for this? So are you aware of anything like that?
Not specifically that is like publicly known, but there are some like centers which are dedicated to understanding about how the miscreants are spreading the misinformation, how the radicalization against some of the communities can be handled about in there. So yeah, there is always a setup, but again, it's not open out to the public. Now, this is one thing. The other thing is like it is not COVID related. This is a general thing that was always there that should have been there, and I'm happy that it exists. Right? So rather than letting anybody use the internet forums as if to spread the hate or like confusion about in there, the FUD, like fear, uncertainty, and doubt, we have as a whole country, we have all these cybersecurity rooms, like war rooms, which goes ahead, checks across all kinds of feed that is coming across, sanitize the data, treat the people, find those people who are spreading these things, and take care of them. So it existed. The only thing that changes, yeah, we tweaked it a bit more to see about what kind of information is coming specifically to COVID, and that's that. So there is nothing new that is happening across from the security standpoint again.
Okay. And from an insider threat perspective, Rohit, so what about insider threats? During these times, you have access to your machines, you're working from home, you have a lot of sensitive data, out in the open. So what are the chances of data breach and fraud, during these, challenging times?
Yeah, I mean, this is again one of the biggest challenges that the companies had to cater out to. I mean, where do we start? Where do we end? Where is that boundary? Which is the insider? Which is the
Yeah.
external people? With no boundaries, no like tangible place where you say like this is where it starts and this is where it ends. I mean, this is one of the bigger issues. So coming back to your question, the insider threat. So again, I can be insider of your organization just by knowing your password. What stops me? Right? It's just a password, right? So again, thinking from a logical perspective, if an attacker had to get in, do any of your actions, the security of the organization has to look at a holistic level. It just cannot distinguish today or even yesterday or even tomorrow which person would be an insider person and which is going to be an external person about in there, right? So again, from a security standpoint, what the organization should do is understand the normal patterns, understand how was the systems being used. If I am a CXO and I have access to those critical data, what is my normal pattern of usage if something is happening in a different manner? if I'm using some of the files which was usually not used by me, which was usually not asked by me, if I'm trying to plug in and copy in the data to one of the USB sticks, again suspicious.
Yep.
Let's see what's going on. So this is not something that is COVID related. This is much more from a security standpoint, because CXOs are the people who keep on moving. Today the normal people are also moving across, so the targets have moved across. But again, the whole security standpoint that stood there, it is there. Any of the organization, they should start looking in these aspects as well. Yes.
Okay. Um, so, any examples of any recent attacks that you would want to maybe bring to light as a typical use case?
Yeah, the recent one was the maze attack on Cognizant,
Yeah.
right? So it
Yeah.
was, I mean, first off, it is really nice for any of the organizations to come up and confess, like, yeah, we got attacked, right? But again, it was a ransomware which somehow would have originated by somebody clicking one malicious file or an attachment or a PDF somewhere. It's just a small thing that started out and it just spread across. The way it infects any of the network is just it cross replicates everywhere, right? So without users' intervention, it goes ahead, replicates, encrypts the whole system, and asks for money to just unencrypt the whole system, right? So this is the whole concept of ransomware. Maze again is the same variant in there, asking for money, and in exchange for the first POC, so-called POC, where you can just unencrypt 3 of the files for
Yeah.
free. So yeah, this is something that happened. I do not actually relate it out to COVID, because ransomware, if you could see, they have been there in the industry for past at least 3 years that we know of. Much before than that, if you're talking about in silos. So yeah, it has been there, but now in the light of COVID, again, there's no tangible evidence which can say like, yeah, this was because of COVID or the work from home policies, but yeah, this happened, and this is one of the examples that people should be aware of.
Okay. Now, again, a very, very important question. So, how are you seeing different organizations, shaping and standing up to fight cybersecurity breaches, during these times?
Yeah, again, as I was giving the example of Cognizant, it
Yeah.
was embarrassment, and it used to happen to so many other organizations prior to 2027, right? Sorry, 2017. My
Yeah.
bad. Where am I? I'm in future.
Yeah.
2017. So yeah, what used to happen is people were so ashamed, like they did not even used to talk about it. They used to keep it as hush hush, just pay the money, get the systems recovered, and move on, right? But Cognizant came ahead and said, like, yeah, this is happening. Look, people, be aware, like there is something like this. Take care, right? TCS came out and they just changed their whole work from home policies. They said like rather than 20%, there'll be 70% of people who can work from home, right? So business are adapting to these ideas where they now have to like work in a remote manner. It is nice. Organizations are sharing the information about the security breaches that they are facing about. They have much more openness when they talk and interact with other organizations, and this is absolutely, I love to say, like, this should be the new normal. I mean, this is the basis where you can fight the criminals in a standard way rather than each individual organization doing their own steps. I mean, that was not a good way. It was so much fragmented, it was so much siloed. But now when companies, they share this information, it becomes so much easier for the IT teams to know and evolve and
Mhm.
understand what's going on, and it's just brilliant what's happening now.
So great, Rohit. So finally, one last question before we let you go. So one success mantra to the audience on, how to be more aware of any cyber threats, and maybe a personal sort of an inspirational statement on how to be sort of calm during these times. So any courses that the audience can sort of take up, to be more relevant in the cybersecurity space. So maybe if you could show them some, or shed some pearls of wisdom around that, that would be great.
Mhm. I mean, I am so happy to be in this era right now. I mean, amongst all these bad things that is happening across, that is one side of the world. The other side of the world is like completely opening up. Udemy, Coursera, there are various universities that have opened up their MOOC or massive online courses. Like, you go ahead, register it out for free, start learning security as a basics. You then advance CEH courses available for free. You go out for CISP courses are available for free. CISM, you can take those steps. You can understand how to proceed from one stage to other. It is such a massive and like positive time to be there. It's just amazing how the world is, like first time, but the first time I can see it's behaving in such a positive manner. It's really nice. The mantra that you say about, I believe, like, this is very much important from my perspective again, is, let's assume, like, yeah, even if today was my last day here, right, what am I doing now? Would it make sense, and is this the last thing that I would like to do? I mean, this is the first thing that you should think about in when you get up out of your bed and start working towards it. If this was your last thing, what are you gonna do? What is that thing that's gonna do that impact that people can remember you, right? Or you're just gonna be another stat, like, yeah, some person, or you wanna be that person that did make a change in the world. So I believe with so many courses available online, so many organizations forgetting about, like, the business model, about the money and other things, it is high time that we should take advantage, understand what's going on. Like, even go ahead, forget all of those things, get a course on mindfulness, get a course on relationship building, like, go back, talk to your kids, talk to your, like, the partner, build your relationships. This is high time. And I really do not think, like, any other time we would have asked for work from home and we would have got it, and now we have got work from home and we should enjoy it. I mean, we should enjoy this thing. This is a nice time to be in.
Absolutely, Rohit. This is these are some great thoughts and some great pearls of wisdom. Thank you so much for making it to the 505 Adda and sharing these thoughts. So I'm pretty sure the audience here would actually have some great takeaways. Thank you once again, and stay
Thank you,
safe.
Kush.
Yeah,
Thank you, Kush. Thank you for
thank
having
you.
me here. Thanks again. Yeah,
Thank
take
you.
it.
Bye
Bye.
bye.